Hi, I'm Greg Benevent, and I'm here with Belal Hamideh. How you doing, Belal?
I'm doing excellent. How you doing, Greg?
I'm doing great, I'm doing great. And today Belal is going to answer some of your most frequently asked questions. So, Belal, what should a person do if they're in a car accident?
Yeah, so car accidents are a very big issue these days because
Jeez.
people are not paying attention when they're driving. Car accidents are due to the negligence of other drivers, texting while driving, other things like that.
Okay.
So it's definitely important to know what to do if you've been in an accident. The first thing is, if you've been in an accident, your car is probably in the middle of the street.
Ooh, okay.
So you wouldn't want to remain in front of ongoing traffic.
Right, you got to get that out. So you got to get to the side or something to that effect? Or...
Right. So the
Okay.
first thing is to safely move your vehicle to the side of the street
Okay.
so that you could focus on taking the photographs of the damage to your vehicle and the damage to the car that hit you too.
Ah, okay.
So, the insurance company is going to want to see photographs of the damage to each vehicle to determine who's at fault for the crash, and also to see if it's the type of impact that could have led to a personal injury.
Oh, geez. Okay. So in that case, you mentioned personal injury, how could a personal injury attorney help the situation?
Right. So a personal injury attorney's job is to maximize the compensation for whoever has been involved in an accident.
Ah, okay.
And the job of the insurance company for the person that hit you or is at fault for the accident, the insurance company's job is to minimize how
Oh,
much money
geez.
you get for the accident.
Okay.
And we are trained and experienced in maximizing compensation, whether it be by settlement or whether we take the defendant to trial. If they don't want to make a reasonable settlement offer, then we will do whatever needs to be done to maximize the settlement and turn a personal injury into a personal victory. And you definitely get a major benefit from having a personal injury attorney on your team because the insurance company has lawyers on their team
Oh, yeah.
that don't want you to get paid what you deserve. So hiring a personal injury attorney, or at least calling for a free consultation to see how a personal injury attorney can positively impact your life and get the justice that you deserve, is definitely something that I would recommend.
So what else should a person do if they're involved in a car accident?
So after they take the photographs of the damage to each car, if they have damage to themselves and they sustained a personal injury, then they should call the police to come to the scene.
Okay.
The police will take down the witness statements of every driver involved in the crash, any eyewitnesses to the accident, and they will write a report. And that report will talk about who's at fault for the crash and who sustained injuries to the crash as well.
Okay.
And if you have a police report to document these things from the immediate time of the accident, then it will be much easier to win your case.
So, Belal, what should a person do if they're in a truck accident?
Yeah, so a truck accident can be very dangerous. When you say truck accident, I'm thinking you're talking about a 18-wheeler,
Okay.
huge truck, 26,000 pounds or so.
Wow.
The force that a 18-wheeler has in an accident is much harder than the force of just a regular car accident.
Jeez. Yeah.
Because the damage equals the mass of the vehicle and it has to do with the velocity. So when the 18-wheeler weighs 5 times more than the regular car, then the impact is 5 times heavier.
Oh, man.
You know, usually when you're involved in an accident, the first thing you want to do is move your car. Hopefully your car was or is movable after an 18-wheeler accident.
Wow.
What we see most of the time is that anyone involved in a 18-wheeler accident has sustained total damage to their car.
Ugh.
We see that a lot of times. If you're able to move your car after being in an 18-wheeler accident, I definitely recommend to do so that you're not in the way of oncoming traffic and that you don't sustain further accident or injury.
Wow.
And the next thing to do is to take photographs of the damage to your vehicle and to the vehicle of the 18-wheeler.
Okay.
Because the photographs tell a story about how the incident occurred and how bad of an impact it was. The more of an impact, the more likely it is that you sustained a personal injury from the 18-wheeler accident.
Wow.
The next thing after taking photographs is if you've sustained an injury, you definitely want to call the police. If they come to the scene, they'll take the statements of all the drivers, any eyewitnesses, and then they'll write a police report.
Okay.
We would get the police report, and then it would talk about all the statements of everyone involved in the accident, any injuries that were reported in the accident, and who was at fault for the accident. So that would really help in the case.
Yeah.
And if you sustained injury, you should seek immediate medical attention to make sure that you're in a stable condition, that you haven't sustained internal bleeding, that you don't have fractures, and then you'll likely be invited by the hospital to consult with your primary care physician.
Okay.
Or your attorney can also recommend a doctor to you if you don't have one.
So, Belal, what should someone do if they're in a motorcycle accident?
Yeah, so motorcycle accidents are tough because there is nothing protecting the motorcyclist.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like as if you were in a car and you're surrounded by metal. With the motorcyclist, they hit the ground, they're on the street. The first thing is to get out of danger for further injury or accident. And to get away from oncoming traffic.
Okay.
Then they should call the police immediately because they've likely sustained a personal injury and they need assistance to get their motorcycle out of the street. You wouldn't want to run back on a freeway or a street with moving cars.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
To move your motorcycle. When you call the police, they'll take down a statement from you and from the driver who caused your injury and any eyewitnesses.
Okay.
And they will then write a police report that you can use to win your case.
Gotcha. Okay. So what can a personal injury attorney do for someone in this situation?
So the job of a personal injury attorney is to maximize the compensation of the injured person. The job of the insurance company for the other driver who caused your injury is to minimize your compensation. That's what the job of claims adjusters and attorneys who work for insurance companies, that's what they're hired to do. So you definitely do not want to be fighting an insurance company alone whose interest is to minimize your compensation.
Makes sense.
Especially if you were involved in a motorcycle accident, because you likely have medical bills, pain and suffering, loss of earnings, and you may have sustained permanent injury. So I would definitely recommend for anyone involved in a motorcycle accident to consult a personal injury attorney for a free consultation.
So, Belal, what should someone do if they've sustained a personal injury?
So a personal injury is an injury that occurs to your person
Uh-huh.
because of the negligence of another person
Ah,
or another company.
okay.
So it could involve a car accident
Mm-hmm.
or a slip and fall
Mm.
or a construction accident if another company negligently caused another person an injury.
Wow.
If you were involved in a personal injury, you
Mhm.
should definitely seek immediate medical attention
Okay.
to make sure that your condition is stable and to document your injuries.
Yeah.
And then I would consult with a personal injury attorney
Mm.
that will fight to maximize the compensation for you if you were involved in a personal injury.
Gotcha. Okay. So in addition to that, maximizing your compensation, like how can a personal injury attorney help someone that's been injured in such a fashion?
Yeah, so the personal injury attorney would be the one to file the claims with the insurance company to assist in obtaining all the medical records and bills
Uh-huh.
and to prove the loss of earnings, to refer the injured person to medical treatment if they don't have access
Uh-huh.
to medical treatment,
Mm.
and to eventually maximize a settlement for personal injury
Wow.
from the insurance company of the person or company who caused your personal injury. And I would invite anybody who had a personal injury to call our office
Mm.
for a free consultation so that we can turn their personal injury into a personal victory.
So, Bilal, what should somebody do if they're injured on the job?
So, an injury at work classifies as workers' compensation.
Mm.
If somebody gets injured at work,
Uh-huh.
the first thing they want to do is report the injury to their supervisor
Okay.
so that they don't later claim that the injury at work never happened.
Mm.
The second thing is under the employer's workers' compensation insurance,
Mm-hmm.
there's a list of authorized doctors that the injured worker can see.
Oh.
So the injured worker should request medical evaluation from the workers' comp authorized doctors.
Oh.
And if the doctor takes them off of work,
Uh-huh.
then they are entitled to receive payments for temporary disability while they're off work. And then when the doctor releases them from medical treatment,
Uh-huh.
then they may be entitled to a settlement for their permanent disability and for their requirement for lifetime future medical.
Okay. And how can a workers' compensation attorney help this situation?
Yeah, so a workers' comp attorney's job is to maximize the money that an injured worker receives for the various factors that they're entitled to.
Mm.
So the first thing is permanent disability percentage. The workers' comp attorney would make sure that the correct percentage of permanent disability is provided to the injured worker. The second thing is for the workers' compensation attorney to make sure that the injured worker is receiving payment for their disability while they're off work so that they can still pay their bills.
Oh, yeah.
And the third thing that a workers' compensation attorney would do is to obtain a settlement for the injured worker
Oh.
and also a voucher for retraining if they qualify. So I would definitely recommend that if someone gets injured at work, to call a workers' compensation attorney for a free consultation to see how they could be of assistance in that.
So, Bilal, what should somebody do if they're injured in an Uber accident?
Yeah, so there's different ways to be injured in an Uber accident. You can
Oh.
either be hit by someone who's driving an Uber,
Okay.
or you could be a passenger in an Uber.
Yeah.
And the first thing that you want to do if you've been in an Uber accident is to take photographs of the damage to all the vehicles involved in the cars.
Okay.
And the second thing is, if you've sustained an injury,
Uh-huh.
to call the police so that the police can come take statements of the drivers and the people that were injured and any eyewitnesses to the
Gotcha.
Uber accident.
Uh-huh.
And then lastly,
Okay.
if there's injuries they sustain, they should seek immediate medical attention to make sure that they're in stable condition.
Okay. So how can a personal injury attorney help this particular situation?
Right, so the job of a personal injury attorney is to maximize the compensation that an injured person has when they're involved in an Uber accident. Now, the insurance companies for the cars or for the Uber, their job is to minimize the compensation that an injured person in an Uber has.
Okay.
And also with Uber, there's special rules regarding insurance coverage. So
Okay.
if the Uber driver had a passenger in the vehicle,
Okay.
then the Uber insurance would provide $1 million of insurance coverage.
Wow.
If the Uber driver had the Uber app on, but they were not on the way to pick up a passenger or did not already have a passenger in the vehicle,
Okay.
then their insurance coverage would be $50,000.
Oh.
So you definitely want to make sure you have a personal injury attorney on your side to maximize your settlement in an Uber accident.
So, Bilal, what should somebody do if they're injured in a Lyft accident?
So the first thing that somebody in a Lyft accident would want to do is to take photographs of all the vehicles involved
Okay.
in the incident.
Uh-huh.
The photographs tell a story about how the accident happened and how bad the accident was and whether it could have led to personal injuries.
Okay.
The second thing is, if you were injured in a Lyft accident,
Uh-huh.
either as a passenger in the Lyft or hit by somebody driving a Lyft vehicle,
Okay. Uh-huh.
then you would want to call the police so that they could come to the scene of the accident and take down everyone's witness statement, eyewitness statements, and to document injuries so that later they could generate a police report that you could use to win your Lyft accident case.
Okay. So, how can a personal injury attorney help this particular situation?
So the job of a personal injury attorney is to maximize the compensation of somebody involved in a
Okay.
Lyft accident. The job of the insurance companies that provide coverage for these accidents is to minimize the compensation that someone has from a Lyft accident. And with Lyft, there's really special insurance rules that determine how much coverage is available for the personal injury.
Okay.
So in a Lyft accident, if the Lyft driver had a passenger in the vehicle or had accepted to go pick up a passenger and was en route to pick up the passenger,
Okay.
and then the incident occurred while they were going to pick the passenger up or while there was a passenger in the Lyft vehicle, Lyft would provide $1 million of insurance coverage for that accident.
Wow.
If you were hit by somebody who's a Lyft driver and their Lyft app was on, but they did not yet accept to pick up a passenger and there was no passenger already in their Lyft vehicle, then the insurance limits drop to $50,000 of coverage.
Wow. Okay.
So it's really important to navigate a Lyft accident with the assistance of a personal injury lawyer on your team who knows how to handle those type of cases and we do handle all Uber and Lyft accident cases.
So, Bilal, what should somebody do if they believe that a loved one has suffered a wrongful death?
So if somebody died because of the negligence of another person,
Mm-hmm.
and the deceased person left behind family,
Okay.
then there are family members who can pursue a wrongful death claim against the insurance company for the person that caused the death.
Okay. So, how could a personal injury attorney help that particular situation?
Yeah, so first of all, the injury attorney would determine which family members would qualify
Mm.
as a claimant
Okay.
to make a claim for wrongful death
Mm-hmm.
against the insurance company that caused the death of the decedent,
Gotcha.
and also to maximize the value of the compensation
Mm.
that that family member can receive through the loss of companionship, the loss of comfort, the loss of society,
Mm.
the pain and suffering that was caused by the death, the loss of financial support that the claimant or family member had because their loved one was wrongfully killed
Mm.
in an accident.
Mm-hmm.
And the insurance company is never going to want to pay full value for a wrongful death claim because there is no way to put a price on a loved one. And you definitely would need a wrongful death attorney to aggressively pursue your claim to maximize your compensation.
So, Bilal, what should somebody do if they're injured on a construction site?
Yeah, so there's different type of claims that can occur from a construction site accident.
Okay.
The first one is if you were injured at work and it wasn't a third party's fault.
Mm. Okay.
If that's the case,
Uh-huh.
then you would file a workers' compensation claim,
Mm.
which we do handle.
Okay.
Now, if someone is at a construction site working for their employer,
Uh-huh.
and then there's other companies there at the construction site as well,
Okay.
and a third party construction company was negligent in some way at the construction site,
Uh-huh.
and that caused you injury,
Uh-huh.
you no longer can only pursue a workers' compensation claim
Oh.
against your employer.
Uh-huh.
You could actually file a personal injury claim
Oh, wow.
against the liability insurance company of the other company that their negligence at the construction site caused you personal injury.
Huh. Wow. Okay. So how can a personal injury attorney help that particular situation?
Yeah, so you would definitely want to make sure that you're pursuing every course of action that is available to you under the law, whether it be a workers' compensation claim against your employer, which we do handle,
Okay.
or whether it be a personal injury claim against a third company that caused your injury,
Ah.
which we handle as well.
Uh-huh.
And our job as personal injury attorneys is to maximize the compensation of the injured worker at a construction site. And the job of the insurance company is to minimize the compensation of the injured worker at a construction site.
Mm.
So definitely having an aggressive personal injury attorney on your team to maximize your compensation would be of benefit to that person.
So, Bilal, what should a person do if they're injured in a bicycle accident?
So bicycle accidents are very dangerous because there's no enclosure around the bicycle, such as if you're in a car
Right.
and you're surrounded by metal.
Yeah.
So the first thing that you would want to do if you were a bicyclist and you were struck by another driver is that you would want to get out of the street that you were in to avoid further accidents or injuries. The next thing is to take photographs of the damage to your bicycle and then also to the car who struck you. And lastly, there is probably going to be visible injury, such as bleeding, bruising, scratches, protruding broken bones, that you want to take pictures of to document that that injury occurred. And lastly, you would call the police to come to the scene to take your statement and the statement of the other driver and any eyewitnesses so that they can write a police report that states who's at fault for the crash and what injuries were sustained by the bicyclist.
Okay, so how can a personal injury attorney help this situation?
So the job of a personal injury attorney is to maximize the compensation for somebody that was involved in a bicycle accident. The job of an insurance company that you're entitled to recover money from for your injuries, their job is to minimize the compensation that an injured bicyclist in an accident receives. So it's definitely worthwhile, and I would recommend to hire a personal injury attorney to combat the team of claim adjusters and attorneys that the insurance company hired to minimize the claim for the injured bicyclist.